The Athletic and of our network speculated that they would go for Merrill Kelly, strengthen the rotation further, because you don't know what you're getting from Christian Vasquez and Luis Garcia and the pitchers who are coming back. You can't be sure of that. So why not strengthen your strength, put Kelly with Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown, and then you really have something. We know they have a great back end of the bullpen. Their offense, once Alvarez is with them, should be okay. The one thing that they've also needed and have talked about is a second baseman, and preferably a left-handed hitting second baseman. If the Rays over the next 10 days falter, maybe they make Brandon Lau available, but I'm putting two and two together here. I have no idea whether that would happen. But yes, to answer your question, Scott, I do expect them to be aggressive.
All right, I think we have to check to see if my mic is on or if anybody's mic is on in Seattle. Jerry DiPoto? Like, is this thing on? Like, we haven't seen any moves from Jerry DiPoto. What can we see from Seattle that needs to, like, get this team over the hump and get this vaunted pitching staff in the playoffs?
Eric, we haven't really seen any moves from anyone, so I don't think we should single out Jerry DiPoto or any other president of baseball operations or head of baseball operations at this point. It's July 18th. We are 13 days away, and really there have only been a couple of very minor deals so far. Now, to the question of what Seattle needs and what they want, they've been talking about a corner infield bat. Could it be Eugenio Suarez? Could it be Josh Naylor? Someone along those lines. And I would expect that they're going to be active along those fronts. Now, could they do other things as well? Could they strengthen the bullpen? Could you maybe even add a starter? Jerry DiPoto is the kind of head of baseball operations I put nothing past, and you never know what they might think of. But the rotation still seems to be a strength now that pretty much they are healthy, except for Bryce Miller. And offense is where they could really make the biggest upgrade. The question with all of these things that we're going to talk about for the next 2 weeks, guys, is where is the quality in this market? Where are the good players that are available? They're not that much of a supply. There's not that much of a supply right now. And that is the issue. That's the problem that teams are going to face. There are some executives predicting it's going to be a boring deadline because just of what I said. There are not that many good players available, and it's going to be tough for teams even to pry away some of the ones that are.
What are you hearing about the market for Luis Robert? Obviously, 2023 All-Star and super phenom coming up, possibly in the last 2 years have been a dud. But what have you been hearing out there about his availability, but also his desire from other teams to want him?
He's highly available. And the White Sox, Eric, hold a $20 million club option on him for next year. They're not exercising that option. So you have to trade Luis Robert Jr. to get anything in return for him. And I mean anything, whatever it might be. Now, if you're the White Sox, you will tell teams, hey, still a great defender or good defender in center field, steals a lot of bases, of course has to get on base to steal bases, but we believe he can still be a contributor for your contending team. Contenders are going to say in response, he's hitting 190 or whatever the number is, and we're not paying a premium for this dude, especially when he's got some money coming to him. So I expect he'll be traded. I don't expect he's going to bring back a lot, and I expect the team that acquires him will say, change of scenery, maybe it will do him good. If you look at what happened with Andrew Vaughn in Milwaukee, Andrew Vaughn was one of the worst offensive players in the league, and suddenly he is a significant contributor for the Brewers. Now, maybe it's only one good week, I get it, but at the same time, maybe getting guys out of there and having them join a new team, a contending team, that will refresh them and bring them perhaps to a greater level of performance.
Do you know, maybe this is something that's way out of your scope, but Luis Robert, his contract, you said about they have a team option to pick it up. If he gets traded, does he have the opportunity to say, hey, I want them to pick up this trade? I don't know if it's like no trade clause, any of that stuff. Would teams be afraid to then not trade for him if that were the case?
I would expect that if he gets traded, Eric, the team that acquires him will be operating under the premise that they're not picking up the option. Now, maybe he goes nuts in the final 2 months and you say, you know what, I'll take it for $20 million next year, but what are the odds of that? I don't think they're very high. So there's no trade clause as far as I know. He can't demand them to pick up an option, and teams would laugh at him if he did that anyway. So that's my expectation, that any team that acquires him looks at him as a rental.
A lot of AL teams hovering over that 500 mark, as we've seen. It's going to be a battle to the finish. It's exciting for baseball, exciting for everybody that's a baseball fan. Do you know any sellers or buyers right now of those AL teams, or is it wait and see closer to the deadline as we get there?
Todd, there are a number of teams that are waiting to see, and I will go through them as quickly as I can in the American League. The Boston Red Sox, they're buyers. But the Tampa Bay Rays, after losing 12 of 16, they don't know where they are. Next 10 days are critical for them. Minnesota and Cleveland, 4.5 games out in the wild card race. Next 10 days also critical for them. And even Kansas City, which just acquired Adam Frazier and clearly wants to compete. If things go south for them in the next 10 days, they're going to have to look at trading Seth Lugo. And then you get to the Western Division. The Texas Rangers are another team that are kind of in this, we're not quite sure who we are. They want to contend. They have built this team to be a really good team, and it hasn't happened. So if they do not fire in the next couple of days and weeks, I would expect they're going to have to take a hard look at some things too, and maybe consider themselves more of a seller.
Ken, I'll flip over to the National League. I like this term that you use sometimes, belle of the ball. Do you think the Pirates might end up as that team because they do have assets in Dennis Santana and David Bednar in the back end of the bullpen? If there aren't significant starters available, like let's say the Diamondbacks go on a run the next 10 days, they take their guys off the market. Mitch Keller might be the best starting pitcher available at the trade deadline. Do you think the Pirates could be this very popular team?
I do. And it's not just Mitch Keller, of course. It's Ke'Bryan Hayes. It's Brian Reynolds. It's the two relievers you mentioned. They could do a number of things. Now, will they do them? I don't know. And they're in a really good position with Keller in particular because of the shortage of starting pitchers. Who is the Max Scherzer of this year's deadline? There is none. So you're looking at Sandy Alcantara, who has struggled. Zach Gowen, who has struggled. Merrill Kelly is good. The Diamondbacks probably will only trade one of Kelly and Gowen if they trade at all. And then there's Mitch Keller and maybe a few others. Adrian Hauser with the White Sox, Charlie Morton with the Orioles. It's not a killer group by any stretch of the imagination. So, Scott, to answer your question, yes, the Pirates do hold a lot of pieces. They have no reason to hold on to them. And I would expect, because they've made it known that the only untouchables are Skeens and McCutchen, that they will be quite active.
One more team in that division, let's say the Cardinals fall off over the next 10 days. Do you think they could open things up with a Ryan Helsley and maybe even a Sonny Gray? What was he saying, Kratz, that he would maybe consider a trade at the deadline?
He said no in the offseason, but possibly consider it at the trade deadline.
That would be a big name.
It would be. And they're a team to watch as well. They fall into that same uncertain category that I listed with the American League teams. Helsley is a guy, yes, if he became available, teams would love to have him. He'd be an easier pitcher or closer to acquire than Clase or Duran or Jax in the American League. Those guys have control left. You'd have to pay a higher price. Helsley would be a rental. The Cardinals are a team that has played beyond where they thought they would be, beyond where really everyone in the industry thought they would be. I don't expect John Mozeliak, as president of baseball operations, in his final year is going to want to concede if they're anywhere close. But yes, Scott, under the scenario that you just presented, if they fall off, sure, I would expect that they would open things up.
I will give this a 2 out of 5 on the bold scale. Dodgers, the biggest deadline acquisition will be a bat. This is not that bold either, because if you think about what they could be looking for in the rotation, maybe it's just depth, maybe it's just insurance in case somebody else gets hurt, and they may find a rental in that area, and it may not be their biggest acquisition. The bullpen, the big guys, Emmanuel Clase, Felix Bautista, and Jaron Duran or Johan Duran. Wow, I'm just converging names at crossroads here. Duran, Bautista, and Clase. Should have just gone with the last names. This is a very unrealistic deadline for them to get moved. There's too much control. All of those teams next year are going to want to compete again. So that could be a Dodgers bullpen addition that is not a name and light star that, grabs the front page headlines. It could be good baseball moves, but not a splash. And the splash could happen with the bat. Very likely. This could be a Steven Kwan destination if Cleveland deals Steven Kwan. This could be a Jared Duran destination. This could be a Cedric Mullins destination. So definitely the biggest deadline acquisition being a bat, I think it's very likely. I won't give it a 1 out of 5 because there is still a chance that maybe, I don't know, they can convince one of the Cleveland, Baltimore, Minnesota to deal one of their back end guys. I'll give it a 2 out of 5 because I think it's likely to be the case. It's likely to be the result of the deadline for the Dodgers.